Hello, and welcome to the Future of Tourism podcast. My name is David PEACOCK, and I'm the Senior Advisor to the Future Tourism Group at Simple View. In the middle of March 2020, the world was hit by a pandemic crisis, the likes of which has never been seen before. In the 3 months since we entered the world of COVID-19, we have interviewed a dozen leaders in the tourism industry from around the world, including destination CEOs, CVB strategists, product development specialists, research pioneers, and tourism thought leaders, and we've shared their respective views on the global future of tourism as part of the weekly podcast. In those interviews, 5 themes emerged consistently: stakeholder engagement, destination alignment, DMMO advocacy, digital disruption, and destination development. 8 months ago, I would have called these trends in the industry. They were beginning to percolate up in various destinations in various guises with varying degrees of success, but they were not formalized or ubiquitous. But our current crisis has changed all that. Today, I call them latencies: existing, impending, essential, but not yet fully manifest. As the saying goes, the future is here, it just isn't equally distributed. A scan of what is being talked about at the leadership level in the industry points to the inarguable fact that alignment and the need for real and meaningful engagement with multiple communities of interest, as well as a pressing need for digital improvement, are all accelerated by this crisis and will play a significant role in the successful destination organization of the future. The writing is on the wall. The trends that will shape the destination management industry are already in play. On the show today, we will go back over the interviews of the last 12 weeks and hear what industry leaders had to say specifically about the challenges we face today and how we must adapt and evolve in order to survive and prosper. On stakeholder engagement.
Well, from a stakeholder engagement side, the destinations that have already placed a high priority on engaging those stakeholders, I think, have already built pathways, which they are now leveraging those pathways now to have a dramatic and positive impact. But as this crisis creates this unifying force, what I mean by that is, at this moment, nearly all of your stakeholders have the same problem at the same time.
Some cities have really been building that network and expanding their networks beyond tourism into the local creative economy, knowledge economy, what have you. And what we're finding as with COVID, the cities that have worked to establish those networks and been more intentional stewards of their communities, as we discussed in the Destination Next Future study last year, are in a much better position now to be effective in their destination.
We have to be facilitators. CVBs have to be the facilitators of information. And we don't always know exactly what information certain audiences, stakeholders, customers might need from us. So I think that's where we need to just ask. We need to reach out and ask what's most important. And I think you'll be really surprised about what your stakeholders would tell you. And then second, on the communication front, I don't know, we really need to kind of get to a better platform of communicating some of the really great insights that we have, whether that's from the data, whether it's from customers. But I think we have to get more creative with our communication style. I see a lot of the information that our CVBs are pushing to, say, the membership, and it's a bunch of facts, it's a bunch of figures, just a bunch of data. It's the reports, and expecting that the assumption is that our stakeholders want to comb through all of that. Well, they may want that as a backdrop, but I think we're missing an opportunity of telling a story around that data or around that information that's going to help your stakeholder understand better what's going to happen in the near future.
But really, we really have to distill it down to, what is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is to put cash in a small operator or into an operator's pocket of whatever scale. And we have to involve, when we're talking about stakeholders, we have to involve all of those people that are going to understand that end game. And especially we got to involve those people whose businesses we're trying to stimulate, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And on a project, I make sure that I establish relationships with those people who are going to directly benefit from the project for a couple of reasons. And the first one is because they're going to become huge advocates in your corner to keep the project going. So if we have a private operator calling the DMO manager saying, "Oh my God, this is the best idea we've ever seen come through. We stand to generate 15% of off-season business because of this project." Boom. That is a huge boost to a project.
So I think what you're going to see is an enhancement of what we call the non-traditional partnerships, right? You're going to have to find some private sector partners there outside of the realm of tourism that will benefit from the same audience, but just for different purposes. So you're going to I think you're going to see those types of alliances having to be found and developed. And I think there's going to be, again, I'm just excited. As I said earlier, I'm excited about the marketing that's about to come out in the next couple of years. I'm excited about the partnerships that are going to be emerging over the next couple of years.
On destination alignment.
What I've asked our industry to do is to step up and be treated like any shared value within a community. So we all believe that in education, we believe there should be access to healthcare. We believe there should be electricity and plumbing and sewers. We believe there should be economic development work. And in that world that I described a few minutes back about how connected we are, we also have this need to present ourselves, present our image, present our brand, and compete. And everyone should understand that that need exists, and everyone should want to solve that need. And that's where the value comes. That's the value. We need to compete. We don't want to lose, because it creates jobs. It creates a healthy environment for our community. Implementing that shared value, then the same way that you build schools and hospitals and universities and fire stations, police stations, you build a destination organization there, which is why it drives me absolutely crazy that people think that they can bid out destination organization services. It's got to be something that's created there and made from there, and it has to be about there. And then the destination folks need to be able to understand that, and understand that their ultimate purpose is to serve the people of the destination. So
Fort Worth was really the first organization I saw that said, here's how residents can help their local restaurants, artists, retail, all the different businesses that were impacted so heavily. And, immediately I understood that, having worked with Mitch Whitten and Bob Jameson there at the organization. The reason why this works, let's just take from a global macro level. And this is without a doubt true, and it applies to any organization in the visitor, destination organization in the global visitor economy. For an organization to be effective now and in the future, there has to be this focus on the convergence of community, tourism, and economic development. All of those have to work together. Fort Worth knew this going back quite a few years and it's always amazing how innovation really bubbles up right out of the challenges that we have. And for Fort Worth, it was like, how do we tell the world we're not a suburb of Dallas, right? That was, for years, that's been a challenge. We're our own destination, we're our own culture, and we have our own reasons for coming to visit. So very early on, they started saying, okay, how do we work with community groups? How do we work with government? How do we, again, elevate our local creative economy and the people driving that?
I've always been baffled by how different every DMO is. We're so similar in so many ways, but so different. And I think that's going to be very amplified. There's some DMOs who are expecting a lot of stimulus funding already. They're in a really good place. They're not laying off teams. They're planning recovery campaigns, and they're foot to the floor, ready to rebuild. There's other DMOs that have been completely decimated, that if their doors are still open, there's one or two people who are working for free because they're sitting at home and they feel loyalty to their industry. I think that fragmentation is going to really continue, and everyone will likely define their role coming out of this somewhat differently. Many people we're speaking to and some of our clients are, rapidly looking at diversifying funding, which will broaden their stakeholder landscape and perhaps make them even more resilient. Others are, accelerating a lot of the trends that we talked about, shifting to digital, shifting to destination management, really defining the value that they can add to the community in a totally different way.
There's some great examples out there of community engagement, but the average DMO typically, they're focused on their mission, telling their story outward. The inward story gets told to whoever holds the purse strings, the county commissioner, the city council, the governor, what legislators, local legislators, occasionally local business leaders, to be a Rotary or whatever the venue or business council you sit on in there. But how many DMOs are really going to the community where the community gathers? Are we at the school board meetings? Are we at the church town halls? Are we at all those other things? And we were already starting to counsel our clients on this beforehand. You need to begin that engagement strategy. Every DMO's, part of this pivot needs every destination organization's engagement strategy for the year, part of their business plan. When they talk about engagement strategy, there has to be an engagement strategy for the local in the here and the now.
We're certainly moving into the recovery phase. And I think one of the biggest things that we're collaboratively working on is what is the response from our industry to the consumers, both the visitors and our residents. And do they feel safe? Do they feel confident in frequenting restaurants and hotels? And again, there's a collaborative statewide program going on right now called Count on Me, which is a collaboration between North Carolina Restaurant Lodging Association, all of the CVBs around the state, Visit NC, the state tourism arm, the North Carolina Department of Public Health, and the North Carolina State University Cooperative Extension. And it is a goal to certify over 250,000 hospitality workers around the state in the latest standards that we're getting, daily and weekly from the federal government and the CDC. So I think the biggest thing that we're working on right now is ensuring that consumer confidence as we start to return to recovery.
We have to help our colleagues get through this. We need those experiences. We need those hotels. We need those boutiques. We need the kayak operator and the whale watching tour, and we need the Zamboni, all of these tourism experiences to be there to help us recover our market. I know it'll look different, and I know it's tough for them, but we have to lend a helping hand. We've got some colleagues right now at Tourism Vancouver Island who are developing programs. Their whole entire programming is to help SMEs recover from this, give them some information, whether that's marketing around social or digital media. It's about programs that they can apply to get relief funding, to helping with their employees. They're focusing entirely on the recovery of that. And I think it's critically important that we help our colleagues make sure that they help them recover.
So it's a matter, and we realize that managing this over tourism is a matter of managing your destination. It's about communicating with your stakeholders, and it's about also shifting from the old DMOs that was like promoting and marketing your destination. Now we shifted like 4 or 5 years ago when over tourism came in. We shifted to DMMOs, Destination Marketing and Management Organization, simply to fulfill this role, to have this kind of nucleus position in the city among the stakeholders, because there has to be someone or an entity that is really like coordinating everything, whether it's the brand perception, whether it is the reputation, whether it's caring about the residents as well.
On DMMO advocacy,
I think this is where people really step up, become the stewards. and make that link and focus to the community. Now's the time when if you haven't got that brand work done, this is the perfect time to do it. The ones that are going to survive this, I don't mean to sound like Darwinian or something, but the destination organizations that can survive and prosper are going to be the destination organizations that prove to their community that they're worth it, that they're engaged, that they serve a purpose, they fill a need, and they're actually, going back to the lexicon, they're helping people. And those are the ones that are going to be best positioned on the backside, because destination organization that's doing what it should be doing, defending the brand and telling the story of the brand and all that stuff, that's a needed piece in the economic strategy to get out of this problem, because we got a recession coming on after this too. I mean, this is a twofer. We're going to go through some really bad times, and if communities think that they're going to get out of this economic development mess faster, better than other ones without having a core message and core brand presenting it, having a successful destination organization, they're not going to come out, which means the revenues aren't going to be there to support a destination organization in the first place. And what revenues they do have, they're not going to throw to the destination organization because they still don't understand what it does and why it's so important.
And this really, it gets right back to Jack Johnson and Destinations International and the whole shared community value that really, at the end of the day, who is our primary customer? And it's our residents. And as we are all learning this kind of new reality, I think the Sedona story is one that really shows that you can turn things around, because the beauty is they immediately pivoted. Actually, they were beginning to already look for a sustainability model a year or so before, and came out with a sustainability model. There are 4 pillars. There were 2 before, and now their sustainability is the other 2 pillars. And the community, the people who were the most vicious online and in social during that moment in time, have said, "Okay, good on you. But you heard us. Great. We're on board. This sounds like a great plan."
From my perspective, we're working a lot more closely with industry colleagues. But in terms of DMOs, I think on one of your previous podcasts, you talked about how this is the time for the DMO they have to reinvent themselves. If they don't have that robust stakeholder piece, engagement, ready to push play, email, whatever the communication method is, if they don't have that, you're almost irrelevant. So you have to be representing your business community at a really, really intimate level. And if you're not, you can only regurgitate communications coming from federal and provincial levels in your e-blast so many times before people are like, you're not giving me any value.
On digital disruption,
I think this is creating an environment where digital becomes essential. So pursuing digital and pursuing sort of efforts around community partnership and digital, were things that could have taken a second priority in the past. Now we're in an environment where they must become a top priority, and they have become essential. Part of that is that I've talked to destinations where it's likely that budgets won't return to the ways that they were, and the ability to spend on massive sort of brand campaigns may not return to the way that they were. And so how these destinations are looking at scale now is scaling through digital and scaling through community, and thinking about what can we put in place digitally that enables that scale and allows it to drive that more natural word of mouth, which, as you just mentioned, ends up ultimately being more compelling anyway. And so the consumer is also coming to expect this more and more. Like, as we've been sheltered in our homes and we've been online, we've been communicating with businesses a lot more through Instagram direct messaging, and we've been watching more content online, and we've just been coming to expect everything, every service or product or kind of level of entertainment we need to start from digital. And then as we kind of go through this jagged recovery, will move back out into the real world as well. But we're not going to lose that expectation of digital.
We need a collective voice coming from our area. I think Simple View, you and Alton have done a really great job of reminding us that there is a physical Traverse City and there is a digital Traverse City. And if they don't match, and boy, right now they really don't match. You have to try to, one of them has to shift, and likely the easiest one to shift is digital. So if we can get, I think in crisis, people recognize or are more attuned to the inconsistencies. So I'm optimistic businesses and other organizations, along with us, will be more cognizant of our messaging, be more in alignment, hopefully work more collectively. And, if we're going to go after Chicago, let's make sure Chicagoland understands our message and we aren't all fragmented and giving misinformation or keeping things up that are outdated and ill-informed. So we'll be far more effective when we turn on what little money we can. If we've got all the voices singing off the same song sheet, we've got a better chance of digging out of this mess.
I don't even call it social media and I don't even call it digital media anymore. I just really try to call it media because that's really what it is. It is the most effective way of doing that. I'm now the big advocate. David, I think I got this from you. I might have stolen it from you actually, but instead of $1 million campaign, we can now do 100 campaigns for $10,000 each to find those aficionados, those avid experiences, the communities of interest, and those who are willing and actually eager to travel to have that experience, whether it's mountain biking or hiking or rock climbing or frankly just hanging out and playing chess with other people from around the world. There are aficionados for that. We have to find and tap into their media, and that's mostly digital. Is it the blog? Is it the social media posts?
So how are they looking at their research and data departments? I mean, I was talking with Entrada Insights yesterday, and they were saying they've never in the history of data collection has so much data gone stale so fast. So if you're a CEO or CMO or really anyone in an organization, how are you approaching the data question in terms of identifying the signals that will sort of inform when you start developing messaging, and where should that be directed to what source markets now? Because the recovery is going to be gradual and scattered, and every destination is going to recover in different ways. So a DO needs to know who's interested in me now. And you look at OTA data, Google data, airline data, consumer sentiment data, but do we go right to the airlines now instead of looking for third party, right? Like just say, American, give us your data, right? And these airlines should start doing that because clearly this is in the interest of everyone's.
In our buyers insights research, one of the things that customers consistently say is when they first begin their search, they go to the website, they go to the meetings page of the CVB, and they want to really quickly and very efficiently determine, do they fit in the destination? And I think what's happened to CVB's meetings pages over the last several years is they've become so experiential, right? And there's amazing video and there's so much cool stuff about all the things they have, if you will. And you can't determine how much exhibit space is in the destination. You cannot determine quickly how many hotel rooms are in a 1 mile radius. So we went too far, right? We went too far, and planners really want to be able to get on that meetings page and very quickly say, do I fit here? And then who do I call?
I told our team this, several weeks ago that, and I think everybody's been talking about this, how the world is forever changed. And as we've been moving through this crisis, we have to recognize that the changes we're seeing will change our futures forever. And in many ways, it is going to accelerate change. Perhaps it's going to compress the amount of change that we would have seen over the next 3 to 5 years into this year specifically. I think that consumer expectations are rapidly changing through this. So the need to build consumer trust will be extreme.
There's so many great technologies in tourism right now, and almost all of them go underutilized. They're still focused on the billboard and the one-page cooperative ad in the Boston Globe, trying to sell what we have to sell through. And again, these are complementary media. We don't necessarily want to lose those media because they do play a role in awareness creation, but we need to complement them with being and using the digital technologies that work so much harder.
On destination development.
If I go real high level just for a second, and this goes back to 2012 when I was at the House of Logistics and Mobility in Frankfurt, and their mandate was how to elevate Frankfurt on the world stage when their major carrier Lufthansa was getting impacted from the Emirates Airlines, and their due north was that the city of the future is an interdisciplinary knowledge sharing machine. And that sounds like a mouthful, but basically we've all seen how cities are driving competitive advantage by attracting knowledge, expertise, and talent. But moreover, how do you commercialize that expertise, and how do you connect local expertise with global industry and the global knowledge economy? And the way they do that is by connecting people, and travel is an intrinsic part of that. So in order for cities to really capitalize on that demand for expertise, knowledge, talent, and commercializing that, cities really need to know who's in the city. And more we're seeing destination organizations being involved in that role to understand who are the most creative, innovative, sort of forward-thinking people in the region. And this isn't just in advanced industries, but creative industries and what have you. And we see now that the big, most forward-thinking destination organizations like Singapore Tourism Board, Destination Canada, are really promoting not the experiences and not the infrastructure, not the stuff that's in the destination, but the innovation, creativity of the people behind those experiences. And that's trickled down now to so many other destinations. Fort Worth does a great job differentiating why someone should look at the city based on all the creativity and innovation.
This isn't taglines. This isn't a sales thing. It's not really it's not about a sales or marketing, tourism marketing campaign. The brand, the element of what defines your destination should encompass all of it. And it should encompass every community. It drives me absolutely crazy when I hear people in communities talk about the tourism campaign. I was like, that's not my city, or that's not my region. That doesn't represent me. And in many cases, it's almost as if some destinations have taken it's a checklist, and you check off the things you want in your brand, they package it for you, and it's off the shelf. Others have gone to great work. I mean, I'm extremely proud of what Don did in Chicago before we came here. It was exhaustive work that involved a lot of people all over the city, to the point where we finally got to the essence of what makes Chicago so different from everyone else in a world that's full of big cities.
That misleading feeling that, boy, I'm coming up to Traverse City for something, and I'm coming up for the digital world that I've experienced, and I'm getting the reality. And the reality, if it doesn't match, that's you're going to lose that customer potentially. It's a bad value proposition if what people are coming for isn't there once they get there.
So People First Tourism is an offshoot of the North Carolina State University's recreation and tourism curriculum, and a couple of different professors that are associated with specifically with the tourism program launched People First Tourism. It is, to keep it very short and sweet, it is a micro entrepreneurial initiative for folks that want to engage in the tourism channel, that have a unique story to tell, a unique tour. Think going a little bit further beyond like ag tourism. We've talked about ag tourism, but it could be a crafts person, it could be a local maker, it could be somebody that is actually a farmer but is doing something very unique to farming. But it has to be immersive. It has to be available to the visitor.
The Economist magazine, I think they got it right when they sort of stated about 2 weeks ago that those trends that were already in play will be the trends that that guide us into the future. We look at markets like Amsterdam, who decided not to market to tourists anymore, to switch very quickly into destination management, managing their assets that they have, managing their tourism opportunity, reducing reliance on those coaches and cruise ships that brought in mass numbers of tourists over a very short period of time. Those are the destinations that we figured we're looking to now to see, well, what have they done and how have they done it? The World Economic Forum this year talked about stakeholder capitalism. Stakeholder capitalism meaning not just a return on our shareholder investments, but employee management, working within communities, supporting the environment, all of those, the multiple bottom lines, not just the economic bottom line that we're looking at from an industry perspective, and saying, how can we apply that model to the tourism industry? How can we help destinations look at the caring nature of tourism, at support for communities, support for local cultures, support, and of course, providing that return on investment that we need to get out of tourism because of its opportunities to employ people and provide quality of life.
So, this is what's being talked about at the leadership level in the industry. The inarguable fact that alignment and the need for real, meaningful engagement with multiple communities of interest, as well as a pressing need for digital improvement, are no longer optional. That they will without a doubt play a significant role in the successful destination organization of the future. The writing is on the wall. The ideas that will shape the future of destination management are already in play.